Papipo, na kawaritsawa ginokame. Desuke owinge iweri omu. Hi, I'm Laura Kaye Jagles from the Pueblo of Tsuki, and tonight I'm going to be sharing Grandpa's canes. After Grandpa swallowed the last piece of his fifth bua, he grabbed his napkin, put his plate directly under the table, and scraped crumbs off of it onto the plate. He put his plate back on the table and began his ritual of folding the napkin over and over, creating a square origami. Sometimes he would put the napkin in his front shirt pocket or in the back pocket of his Wrangler or Levi jeans. I don't know why Grandpa collects these darn napkins, Go'o would say when she found the remains damp, scattered, and falling apart as she took out the clothes from the washer. The bits of napkin clung to everything the way powder detergent flakes clothes at times. The pieces of napkin transformed into hard blue cotton candy in my 7-year-old mind. I laughed. You laugh at every little thing. Get me another laundry basket. Grandpa pushed back the chair from the kitchen table with his body, grabbing the plate and silverware. Who knows what he did with the napkin? As he rose out of his chair in approval of the meal he just finished, he proclaimed his thanks to God. Gutta tayo si Gimborimani. Go'o and I replied, Huh. Grandpa walked toward the kitchen sink and put his dirty plate and silverware on the counter. He came back toward the kitchen table, grabbing the 7-Up with soda still in it. He walked to the front door, and I knew he was going to sit on the front porch to watch the day sky close. I gulped down the mashed potatoes, pork chop, and corn left on my plate, ate the last bite of my bua with peanut butter on top, and took a drink from my 7-Up to wash it all down. I grabbed my plate, silverware, and napkin. Before I stood up out of my chair, I said, Gutta. Huh, Go'o replied. She was always the last one sitting at the table. My sister and I often made fun of her by over-exaggerating the way she would bring the spoon slowly to her mouth. Then we would get a soda can and slowly bring it to our lips. As I walked toward the kitchen sink, Go'o said, Remember, you're gonna wipe the dishes after I wash them. I know, I replied as I grabbed my 7-Up can to join Grandpa, who was already sitting outside on the porch. The living watercolor sunset had not begun yet, and in my mind I thought, what will Grandpa teach me tonight? I wonder why he likes 7-Up so much. Why does he eat so many tortillas, and why does he save napkins? Sometimes we didn't talk, but simply enjoyed how the sky embraced the different colored clouds swarming in it as they played tug-of-war with the wind currents. As the sky altered its shade to pale blue, I couldn't bear the silence. Grandpa, why do you carry those sticks? What sticks? The ones with the shiny tops. Oh, those ones. Why, they belong to the governor. Are you the governor? Yes. How did that happen? Well, sometime after the new year ends, the old menfolk get together and they decide who will be good leaders for the village. They talk about it a long time before the new year. Then, on the day of the new year, all the men meet to talk about the past year. Then they talk about the new year and the hopes they have for the people. When everyone is done, the old menfolk appoint the officials. There's the governor, lieutenant governor, sheriff, 4 war chiefs, and 2 church keepers. Grandpa was a fairly modest man, yet I had some pretty idealistic thoughts about him. I thought you were the only leader because you carried those sticks. Grandpa chuckled at my outrageous thought that he could be the only leader. Those sticks are canes. Different people gave them to the old governors before me. Around the year 1620, a long time before I was born, a man from another country called Spain sent the first canes to different Pueblo governors in all of New Mexico. He was a king. King Felipe is what they call him. His country was in charge of all the Pueblo people at that time. He speaky Espanol, just like the Spanish do in Santa Fe. I never doubted what Grandpa told me about the first Spanish cane, and what he said was true. I wasn't into princesses, so I did not ask Grandpa if the king had a queen or daughters who were princesses. The pale blue sky lasted a long time as Grandpa continued telling me about the canes. He started to untie his brown suede work boots when I bugged him with more questions. You talk like the Spanish too, huh, Grandpa? See, yes, I learned to talk like them. Grandpa paused long enough for me to watch two baby ants crawl up the 5-inch slab of cement that formed the porch we sat on. To the ants, it was a towering gray skyscraper they attempted to scale too often and failed. One got a little too close to me, and I tried to flick it away gently, but I might have squashed it because it suddenly smelled like bananas. After my curiosity with the ants ceased, I looked at Grandpa, and he continued his story. And so the first cane the king gave us was made of brown wood, and it had a shiny top, like you said. The shiny top was made of silver. It had a cross melted into that silver top. But why was Grandpa talking like the Spain cane didn't have those things anymore? Was it because it was really that old? Grandpa unbuttoned the cuffs of his plaid shirt and began rolling his long sleeves up so he could feel the cool, dusky air on his forearms. Somewhere along the way, this cane was lost or sold by someone, so we don't have it any longer. It is too bad. I could tell that Grandpa was thinking a lot about this cane because he started rubbing his coarse hands together. He finished scratching his right wrist with the fingernails from his left hand when I reached over to hold it. I liked Grandpa's hands, and he didn't mind if I held one now and again. They were rough from planting and picking corns, beans, and watermelon, crooked from weaving rugs and crocheting leggings, but honest and dark from being out in the sun. Playing with the grooves, skin, and lines of a long life I discovered on his left hand, he continued. We have 4 other canes. Those are the ones you saw me hold when I gave advice at church. Each one holds the wishes of countless leaders before me, influencing what I say and how to lead our people. This is why they are so special. The canes help me to pray the right way, Tewa Turi, speaking in Tewa. When Grandpa spoke Tewa, it was as if I could see the words from inside his stomach, feel their way around, creep up his chest, and fly out of his mouth, producing a flock of knowledge. I swallowed them like the bua with peanut butter, and the words stuck. The second cane was given by Mexico, he continued. Mexico? Aren't we in Mexico, Grandpa? No, Musa. We live in New Mexico, and it was called New Spain at one time because those Spanish people were in control of it. Mexico used to be controlled by Spain too, but they got away from that country too. And because the people of Mexico wanted parts or all of the land we live in, it became theirs. They named it New Mexico. When Mexico knew about us Pueblo people, why then the men there decided to give us a cane too. Grandpa stopped talking to seek out more memories in his brain. They gave those canes in... Grandpa scratched the balding top of his head, and using his facial muscles, he scrunched his forehead toward his nose. In 1821, I think. The Mexican cane is similar to the Spanish one, and it has a silver top on it as well. Do you make the top shine like your rings, Grandpa? Sometimes. I bet the shiny tops are made like the 7-Up can, but I can't drink out of them. I looked up from staring in wonderment of my association of the cane's silver top to my 7-Up can, and noticed that the blue hue faded into a soft, warm, yellow-orange color accented by bright yellow sun rays making their way through the serenely white popcorn cloud formations. Grandpa let go of my hand to untie his other shoe. He turned it upside down to shake out the dirt he collected from the cornfield at his ranch. Even though I don't go with him to his ranch, I collected similar amounts of dirt from playing in the arroyos with my older cousins. I took my tennis shoe off and emptied it just the same. I watched Grandpa, waiting for his signal to start taking off my socks. He reached for his, and I copied him. We shook our socks upside down and watched the dirt and pebbles fall. The dust they made was swept away by the cool night breeze. The sensation of taking our socks off was liberating. Our feet agreed, and they no longer felt the 10 to 12-hour suffocation. Our soles touched the soothingly smooth and night-cooling dirt I wanted so much to put in my mouth. We watched the yellow-orange sunset suddenly turn deep blood red and land in the belly of the hills. But it was summertime, and Grandpa knew I could stay up, and he continued to tell me about the canes. With our feet comforted by the cool dirt, Grandpa began again. The third cane was given by a United States president. Maybe you talk about him in your school. He was tall. He had no mustache, but a dark beard, and always looked so serious in the pictures I saw. He started reaching into his front pocket and said, "Let me see if I have a penny. Here's one." He placed the penny in his palm and pointed to the head side of it. "This is the man that gave us the third cane." I felt the copper with my small fingers and stared at this man I did not know. He must be a king too, to have his face on a penny. Grandpa didn't wait for comments from me and continued. "Anyway, he gave us a cane that had a black stick with a silver top too. He had some menfolk put the year 1863 on it. He also has this name on it in that fancy writing that you are learning in 2nd grade. Cursive," I said excitedly. "Right, that's the one. And it says A. Lincoln on it for Presidente Abraham Lincoln." Grandpa liked to combine Spanish with English or Tewa with English, but I liked it. Grandpa was curious about the progress I was making with cursive writing because the only thing he knew how to write in cursive was his name, Guadalupe Duran. After I drew my name in the dirt as if he could see it, we saw headlights illuminating the dirt road leading the way to my ko'o and Matma's house. "I wonder who that could be," Grandpa thought out loud. "Maybe it's Mom coming to pick me up," I replied. The truck drove up the side of the house and Tata stepped out. "Umbi sengi kun." Good evening, Tata greeted us. "Eharan daang na yawe." Why are you two both sitting outside? "Ain't ma'ang." We're talking, Grandpa answered. "Oh, tuawe handi. Go inside then." Tata and Grandpa spoke Tewa for a long time in the living room while I went into the kitchen to wipe the dishes. The dishes were like building blocks as I stacked plates and cups upon each other. I hummed El Dangato. El Dangato was a cat. On a high red roof, Dangato sat. He was la 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 la, meow meow meow. We were learning this song in music class, and I liked it. No wonder Grandpa called me Musa. Engaged in my little world, I did not realize Grandpa had left with Matma until I finished wiping the dishes and looked into the living room. Tata sat on the couch and said, "Laura Ray, okay, newe osoke. Come here, sit next to me. Wehotete, where's Grandpa?" He had to take care of some things. What were you two talking about earlier when I drove up? ¿De un café da? Go'o asked Tata. Do you want some coffee? Yeah, Rama. A little bit, Tata replied. Grandpa was telling me about this man, I urged Tata, handing him the penny. Hey, wah. Did he tell you this man gave us one of the canes Tete carries? Uh-huh. He was going to tell me about another one when you came. Spain, Mexico, Abraham Lincoln. He told me 3 already. Tata shifted his sitting position on the couch and seemed to prepare himself to tell me more. Well, the Lincoln came from the United States, and we have another one from the New Mexico State Governor, too. In 1981, Governor Bruce King gave canes to the Pueblo governors at the state capitol building. Maybe you'll visit there someday on a school trip. Nawe ubi café. Go'o handed Tata his coffee, and he placed it on the coffee table. Go'o sat in the chair that matched the couch and turned down the volume to her Yankee baseball game, but she still watched it. So, who gave the old governors the last cane, Tata? Taking a sip of his coffee, he began again. Last year, about summertime too, another king of Spain, Juan Carlos, gave the Pueblo governors some canes. There sure are a lot of kings in Spain, I said. Maybe he wanted to be remembered like King Felipe. Who knows? But I guess it was a nice gesture. What's a gesture? I asked. A gesture is kind of like a way of doing something nice for others, Tata responded. Tata took another sip of his coffee, then he spoke. Well, another person is supposed to come visit the Pueblos again this year. He wants to offer the governors another cane, so that will make a total of 6, if we only still had the Spanish one too. This man is from Spain too, but he is not a king. He is one of Cristobal Columbus' relatives. Yeah, he's the one who discovered America, huh? Well, not really, hun. Pueblos and Native Americans were here already, but he was the first one from another land to cross the sea, explore the land, and he tried to call the land his. But the land doesn't belong to one person, a country, or anyone. It just is. When is this man going to visit? He wants to meet all the governors at San Juan Pueblo. I came to tell Tete about the meeting, and he went to ask the old men if they want to accept the cane as well. So Grandpa will be carrying a lot of canes, huh? If they decide to keep this one too. That's right. By the time Grandpa returned, Go'o already put me to bed. Later, nearing the end of Grandpa's year as governor, my sister and I watched Go'o prepare the canes to be given back to the old men to pass them on to the new governor. On December 31st, Go'o took out her new rolls of cloth ribbons. Melinda, get the scissor from the kitchen drawer next to the oven. Melinda handed Go'o the scissor. Go'o cut roughly 18 inches off of 10 different colored rolls of ribbon diagonally along the rugged edges. These are pretty colors of ribbon, Melinda assured Go'o as she put the newly cut ones on the couch and untied the old ribbons from Grandpa's canes. Melinda and I fought over the old ones as Go'o put 2 different colors together and tied them around the bottom of the silver tip of one cane. I played with the new ribbons I managed to get while she was preoccupied. Nama'a, give me those. She grabbed 2 more from my hand and tied them around the neck of the second cane. By her tone of voice, I could tell she was annoyed, and finally she took the rest from Melinda's hands and tied them in a bow like the others on the last 3 canes. The next day, January 1st, seemed to drag. All the men were at the meeting Grandpa talked about earlier this summer. The first day of January always seemed like a long day for everyone in the village. Go'o seemed impatient, excited, and worried. They're worse than ladies. I don't know why it takes them all day to decide. Go'o and Matma lived just above the Head Start building where the men once held their meetings. You two go play outside and watch for Tete and Matma. Let me know if they are on their way. As we grew older and more aware of the length of the meetings, we would watch from Ko'o's bedroom window to see if Tete and Matma would leave with the rest of the men. The men who were appointed left last, so if we didn't see them come out early, we would anticipate their return with more excitement than usual. Laura, get a pen and paper so when Grandpa and Matma come in, we can write down the men's names. After Ko'o made her list of names with the title of their position next to each name, she left with Melinda. I stayed with Tete and Matma watching Wheel of Fortune while Ko'o and Melinda congratulated the new officials' families going house to house. Grandpa, who was still thinking about the day-long meeting, addressed Matma. The kings will bring those families luck this year for the sacrifices their man will make for a year's duty to his position and our people.